Greetings on Beyond the New. Where we last left off, the Call of the Wild just returned to town from the swamp and stayed the night in the drunken horde. In the morning, Snake Creature Heart informed the paladins of the theft of their goods and enlisted the help of a golden retriever dogfolk named Jake, who sniffed around and could tell that 3 humans were the perpetrators of the crime, but beyond that there wasn't anything he could do but keep an eye out and hope to find those responsible. During this time, Celine and Ulfgar came to the temple for Hightower and sought to see if Wecklin's message got through. It did, and I informed them as such. Ulfgar asked if I had a mousefolk in mind to fight the lizard folk. I did. I had a specific mousefolk that had gone on a journey 5 years before, but in my knowledge and research with him, using a sending spell, I found him in the plane of air. I was quite surprised and informed them as such that Finn, son of Martin, a cohort of Jake, has been in the plane of air for quite a while and may take some time to acclimate back to the material plane, and that he would be with an honored guest. Ulfgar wanted to press on about the issue of the guest, but that would be all that I would tell him, for I would not disclose to Ulfgar of all people that the honored guest with Finn, son of Martin, was in fact a djinn that Finn had freed from a meteor previously and had taken him to the plane of air. We all know that Ulfgar can rub some people the wrong way, and I would not like to rub a djinn the wrong way. Ulfgar and Celine asked if I had a backup plan in case Finn could not fight. I indeed did, and went to find the backup, a cleric of Hightower, a Cal, son of El, who, although less trialed like Finn, would be the next best bet. When I brought El back, Ulfgar had run off, so I left him with Celine, as she took him back to the drunken horde to meet with the rest of the party. When Ulfgar returned and inquired about the feast that he spoke of, I spoke to Ulfgar and said that the feast was a welcoming of the lizard folk to the Alliance, and that I would take him I would make him personally responsible if this incident turned out unwell, seeing as it was his idea in the first place, and that if this went bad, this could start a war. He understood my meaning and went to help train Cal. The rest of the party took Cal under their wing, so to speak. Snake providing a bag of red pepper powder to even the odds against the lizard folk, as Krask would help spar with Cal. During this time, Ella was with her mother, catching up and getting rid of some things that she had collected in the swamp. The party continued to spar with Elle throughout the evening, and the next day, Ulfgar got a message from his sister that said that she had received the books, she would not send an army, and she would let him know when she is finished with the books. The party deciding to change things up a bit took Cal to the forest west of town, as Ulfgar, earlier in the day, went out and spread the news of the feast and learned that much food would be needed, and this would be a way to catch two birds with one stone, as they say, and would train Cal how to fight other creatures than just sparring with the party. This led to a little more of a challenge, not for Cal per se, but for the party, as when Cal defeated a beast, one would stay behind to dismantle it, and they were not quite good at dismantling it. Both Ulfgar and Celine brought back as many pieces of the beast as they could to a Sal's Salted Meats, where he spoke to them, saying it would be easier next time they just bring the entire beast to him. He'd probably be able to get more meat out of it and have it be less ruined. The day after the party took Cal to the forest, a unique incident happened where a mousefolk and a human child appeared out of nowhere, causing quite a commotion in the street and drawing quite the crowd. By the time I got there, I had to scatter the crowd, as this was Finn, son of Martin, and Hugo, our honored guest. And after a little pleasantries, with the crowd parting, I took Finn and Hugo to speak in the Temple of Hiawatha to prepare for themselves, telling the party to continue on with their training, just in case. And with that, the days up to the fight continued on, with them training Cal, sparring, fighting beasts, all sorts of things. Snake and Ella teaching Cal to fight dirty. As time drew closer, the party would notice that stalls were going up. People were getting ready to sell their wares, and the Call of the Wild took this upon themselves to help join in these festivities in their free time between training Cal and everything else. Ulfgar made the cart into a museum to show off all the things the Call of the Wild have done. Snake joined Jigra in selling meat tarts at her stall. While others have done other things and helped out where they could. During one of these days, Celine came across Lynn Nilo, returning 3 books to the library. When asked about this, Lynn spoke that Oak, daughter of Elm, was missing these books, and she had spent the last week rewriting them for her, as she had memorized them previously. As the days drew closer to this event, more and more people came to see it. Orcs from the Orc village, Leonin from up north, even a few hobgoblins showed up. With this, Celine and Ulfgar decided to make dishes from their hometowns. Ulfgar making a apple cherry pig, which is a whole roasted pig with certain dressing or sauce, is how he put it, while Celine made elven bread, a delicious little bread that well made with plenty of spices. All of this, of course, continuing on with as they would, up into the day of the fight. Now, the morning the lizard folk were scheduled to show up, I had sent a paladin to wake the party and to have them meet us at the edge of town. When they got there, they noticed 14 lizard folk sitting out at the edge of the forest. The shaman there with a board of suns, with the last one crossed out. As Celine and Ulfgar looked at each other to figure out who would speak, I spoke up. And I spoke with the lizard folk and said that they are free to enter without threat of punishment. This alleviated them, and although the Call of the Wild may have noticed pointing and murmurs in my direction about me, I do not think they understood the meaning. But in time they would. As we showed the lizard folk into town, Ulfgar spoke with the shaman and noticed a severed arm that she had carried. Speaking about it and looking at it, he asked if he could have her put it in his museum to show off the strength of the lizard folk. This thrilled her, and she was quite happy to do this, given she'd get it back as her trophy. During this time, out of earshot of Ulfgar and the shaman, Snake Creature Heart knew about this arm, or at least about the creature that arm it was. That it was a slot. And as they looked around, they noticed one of the lizard folk had scratch marks. This was quite troubling, and they, after a while, after bringing them into town and putting up the arm for display, and during the feast, where the lizard folk gorged themselves on all manner of things, especially those cooked in unique ways that the lizard folk usually wouldn't. Snake and Ulfgar came and spoke to me about this, and we set about sending paladins and clerics to cure diseases and hope to stop a slot invasion at the source. Knowing what slots are and how they procreate, this was very troubling news, but must be kept under wraps, at least from the lizard folk and the general populace. For if news got out, then a panic would surely happen. So we set about quietly during the feast, making sure no one would be infected that wasn't cured, and that the arm itself would be cured of any lingering slod larvae or tadpoles. The rest of the evening was a success. Several of the party members made their way back to the drunken horde. Ulfgar let himself go and did not make it back to the drunken horde, instead falling asleep in the streets, while Snake was led away by Jigra to her abode. The next day, as the party awoke in their own places, it took them a while to get back together. Celine, Krusk, and Ella in the drunken horde, Snake in Jigra's place, having found out that Jigra led him to her house, giving him the bed while she'd sleep on the couch, and Ulfgar waking up in a less peaceful manner to tugs on his coin purse as someone tried to steal from him, as someone chased the thief away. A young warrior, Ulfgar, being pleased that he'd had his wallet kept, gave her a few coins as eventually the Call of the Wild gathered back together and followed the crowd up to one side of the roof on the Temple of Hidewartha. Now, the Temple of Hidewartha has many places to worship many different gods, not just Hidewartha, god of peace. Where the fight was going to commence was an open-air arena on the roof, dedicated to Kord, the Storm Tyrant, god of storms and battle. As if Kord himself was watching, the battle between Finn, who indeed got accustomed to the physical plane in time to join the fight, fought against the large, black-scaled lizard folk, and it started with a crash of lightning as storm clouds were approaching in the morning. And in this fight, the thrill of battle was only second to the surroundings of the dark clouds and storm that fought along with them. And as the battle ended, with Finn victorious, the storm passed on by, as if Cord was only there to watch. And although much more brutal in detail for those that saw it, it's much harder for those to hear back on it. But I, as someone who witnessed the fight themselves, it was quite well done. And luckily for Ulfgar and the Call of the Wild, their bets were in their favor, making it so that way the lizard folk would give in to the demands of the Call of the Wild. After the commencement of the fight, the party had free rein to enjoy themselves at the festival, and learned that in this festival more people would fight in these arenas. Granted, they weren't as bigger fights, and smaller arenas, giving a chance for more people to fight at a time. But the party also noticed a familiar-looking face, taking care of bets for those in the fights. Schemeth, their wheeling and dealing goblin friend. Krusk spoke with Schemeth about what he asked for before. Schemeth told Krusk that he didn't have much information about the flag, or about pirates or those outside of the island, but he did know of a social dragon that lived in a mountain on the east side of the island that may prove worth it for Krusk. Although Schemeth made mention that it was not worth his time to go himself, but if Krusk would go, to be on his best behavior, and that the dragon was very talkative and social. With this, the rest of the party continued on, some fighting in the arenas themselves, others going about and buying things, selling things, enjoying the fun of the festival. Although enjoying the festival the best they could, the party indeed knew it had to come to an end, as the next day the party came to speak with me, and we discussed what needed to be done, and how I would set up word with paladins of the temple and of those willing to help make sure that the slaughter would not spread throughout the swamp and throughout the area. As I set about this, and the party were setting out on their journey, Ella spoke with the Call of the Wild, saying that after this quest was completed, that she would be leaving the party to travel with her family, her parents and her grandfather, Foop, to help him on his final journey, as he said, not knowing exactly what Foop meant by that. But the party went out, travelling several days to return the lizard folk to their home, keeping an eye out for any slod, before turning their eyes to the bullywogs and travelling to find them. Over the several days that it took, and finally finding what was the bullywog village, they came across a monster made of living vines and had a tough fight putting him down, but finally did, and found the bullywog village deserted, and spent time looking, finding nothing, except hearing noises from a abandoned temple. The interesting thing time is, for it did not take them long to enter the temple, but it seemed like so much happened in this time of chaos and the plague that happened of the slod. As I set out with clerics and paladins to make sure nothing happened and no slods escaped the swamp, and would slowly encapsulate the swamp and clearing it of any such creatures. It seemed like years between seeing the party leave Dalfa with the lizard folk and what happened next.